Karam complained that he should have just woken her up during that time. Then, after a while, an ogre appeared in the northwest. The Duke commanded them to set up a line of defense and take down the ogre right away. He told everyone to leave no one alive. The knights yelled to start the restraint of salvation. A bright yellow mark in the air illuminated the area. A magic circle formed beneath the ogres, and restraints came out of that circle, immobilizing the ogres. The Duke commanded the knights to attack. They sliced up the ogres in the area. The ogres roared loudly, but the knights bravely did their duty. They easily cut down the ogres. Meanwhile, Cyan was mounted on a horse, watching them while Emily, behind him, is scared to death. She cried rivers of tears as she asked the young master why he wanted to come into a place like that. Deep inside, Cyan felt nostalgic. The Duke asked him how it feels to be in the front lines. Cyan admitted that he's a bit nervous. The Duke told him that, as he had observed, he will never know when he will die in a place like that. He advised him not to ever let his guard down. He answered that he will keep that in mind. He knew that in the front lines, situations like that are usually 3 to 4 battles a day, and every battle has its own detailed response manual with the capable knights as core, taking care of all the monsters that try to cross the front lines. At the base camp, he had observed that the tent he was assigned to is in the rearmost area where it's the safest, with the guards in the area being disciplined. He couldn't see a chance to feed Karam. He wondered if he had to wait until dinner time. He noticed Emily trembling under the blanket. She replied, "Didn't the Duke tell us that we won't know when and where we would die?" Cyan asked, "Why won't she pack up and return?" She yelled loudly, "Do you think I can, when you can't even do anything without me?" With a slight hint of annoyance, she told him that with the monsters all over the place, if she ran away, who would take care of him? She instructed him to move since it's already time to eat. Cyan asked her about the cape that he requested, but Emily just left him in the tent without saying a word. Cyan was holding back his annoyance, but he wondered what would happen if he just chased her away. He couldn't believe that's how she treated her master. Later that night, Cyan lay a doll that looked like him in bed. He covered it in a blanket. It looked like he was sleeping on the bed. He thought that was enough cover. Emily asked him if he plans to exercise even in that place. He answered yes and asked if he woke her up. Her eyes are still closed as she praised him for being diligent. She added that the Duke would be proud of him if he were to find out. He put on his hood and told her that he will be leaving. He asked her to take care of things as usual. As he was about to leave the tent, he briefed her that he was asleep. Cyan knew that since they are in the front lines, the guard duties are strengthened. He ran as fast as he could. If he didn't take that chance, moving around freely will be difficult. He used his skill, Thick Fog 3 move, Fog's Descent. He's relying on his memory and went to a place with tons of monsters. It was the perfect place to use Karam. Karam got excited over the strong scent of blood. She told his master that she doesn't think he can hold back. She urged him to move quickly so she could cut something down. Several hellhound monsters attacked them. Cyan agreed with her and promised her that they would do as she pleased. Cyan and Karam easily cut down the monsters. They were clearly enjoying this bloodbath. Cyan activated Fog Sword, Rushing Fog Storm, and he cut down several monsters while moving like a tornado. Few moments had passed. He stuck a tube in the monster's corpse. A mug waited at the end of the tube. He drains the blood through this method, and then he drank the fresh blood. He looked like a madman when he uttered, "This is the stuff." Karam was elated too. She commented that it's the first time she felt so refreshed after waking up. Cyan told her that they will keep training like that. She asked him how long he thought it would take for them to get stronger by killing those mutts. Little did they know, several hellhounds gathered behind them. He sensed the monsters. He assured Karam not to worry since the night is young and there are plenty of monsters. Karam was getting excited. Ogres, hellhounds, giant crocodiles, you name it. That same night, a carriage escorted by several knights is traveling in the mountains. A girl with silver hair is inside the carriage. Someone can be heard saying that the front line is too dangerous. The woman inside the carriage with the girl suggested that they go back. The girl told her not to treat her like a child. She told her that she's the royal princess of the empire. With a hint of annoyance, she asked her how many times must she remind her that she's bound to her duty to assist her father in his tours. She warned her that she will get mad if he mentions it again. The woman replied that she understood, and then she changed the topic, with the news saying that the youngest son of the Vert family is on the front lines. She added that he should be around the same age as her. The princess was surprised to hear that Duke Vert brought his youngest son. Her attendant told her that the Duke wasn't really planning to bring the kid yet. The kid volunteered himself. Since they are at the same age, the attendant suggested that the princess and the kid should get along. The princess acted as if this didn't interest her. She ended the conversation by saying that she would go to sleep. The attendant respected her wish. After a few heartbeats, the princess asked for the kid's name. The attendant replied that it's Cyan Vert. She repeated the name and took a mental note of it. The face of the princess was then revealed. Waifu candidate number 1 was found. A monster was sliced to its death. The Duke ordered to check if anyone's been injured. It was reported to the Duke that everyone is okay. The Duke praised them for their hard work and ordered everyone to go back. The Duke looked around. He had observed the one who killed the last flying monster, which is Cyan. The Duke asked Cyan how he was doing on the front lines. Cyan replied respectfully that he was learning something new every day. The Duke was surprised because he expected Cyan to want to return quickly. He mentioned that Cyan had been enduring for quite some time and expressed his pride in him. This took Cyan by surprise. Before leaving, the Duke told Cyan that he wanted to talk to him the next day, so he should come to his tent early in the morning. Cyan was surprised by his father's kindness, as he had never seen it before. That night, an eerie atmosphere settled over the area. A long-bodied monster emerged from underground. Luckily, Cyan managed to evade it. It was a deathworm, massive and with sharp teeth at the end of its body. Karam suggested taking over for Cyan, but he knew better, aware of her schemes. Karam denied any ill intention, promising to use her abilities briefly and then allow him to take over. The deathworm's body emitted smoke from its rough surfaces. Cyan noted that it would quickly regenerate from shallow injuries, making attacking it futile. He realized Karam was right. They might have to keep fighting forever at that rate. It had been a month since Cyan went to the front lines. He had fought countless demonic beasts, but he felt it wasn't enough. When the deathworm attacked him, Cyan felt he had no choice. He decided to go along with whatever Karam was planning for now. Karam eagerly unleashed her power, activating Thick Fog, 9th Form, Demonic Sword manifestation. She aimed to tear through the deathworm's thick skin with a single swift movement. Karam inflicted several injuries on the deathworm, causing it to bleed. Then, she used Fog Sword 8 fluttering petals, swiftly moving along the deathworm's body, slicing it. The deathworm began to weaken. Its blood showered the area until its body got severed into pieces. Meanwhile, the Duke's party investigated a corpse of a monster, and they noticed that it hasn't been long since it was killed. Yoken noticed that the mana was quite imposing. He assumed that it could have been done by a demon. The Duke replied that they couldn't overlook it if there's a demon involved. He instructed everyone to inspect the area and burn the corpse immediately. The Duke inspected it closely since the traces of the sword looked familiar. He wondered if it was déjà vu. Then he was called by Elen to take a look at something. Yolen raised his torch to light up the area. It was a corpse of a deathworm. The Duke was surprised and curious, on who would have slain a deathworm like that. This is the same deathworm that our MC had slain. He thought it might be the organization that he knew of, demonic sword manifestation. Let's say Karam took control of Cyan's body to use her true powers, but she could fully possess him if he let his guard down. That's why Cyan thought it was crazy to let Karam defeat even just one monster. He woke up feeling sore all over, but figured drinking the demonic beast blood had saved him. A month ago, his body would have given out. Suddenly, Karam declared she had everything now, but Cyan didn't understand. She clarified that while Cyan looked like a kid, he didn't act or speak like one. Karam noticed Cyan's skill level was too high for a first-timer. He also knew the geography of Lamea Valley and had sword techniques like he'd trained for 30 years. Cyan admitted he'd already died once, confirming Karam's suspicion that he's a regressor. Cyan thought he'd made it obvious earlier. Karam was dumbfounded, then angry, saying it wasn't obvious without explanation. Cyan said he was too lazy for that. Karam changed the subject, guessing killing Cyan must have been difficult. She theorized he was killed by the owner of the Durandi Ark, likely betrayed. Cyan asked why she thought that. Karam explained his disdain for the holy sword hinted at betrayal, and she concluded Cyan sought revenge. She warned him that if he faltered, she'd take over. He smacked her head, reminding her of her place. Dizzy, Karam remained on the ground. Cyan thought she hadn't changed from his past life. Leaving the tent, Cyan found chaos outside. Emily rushed to greet him, reporting high-level monsters near the valley entrance. Cyan worried it might be the deathworm. Emily said it had been ages since high-level monsters were seen near the camps. Cyan asked if there was more, like sightings of suspicious people or anything about him. Before Emily could answer, Jerkin called for him. The Duke wanted to see him immediately, making Cyan nervous. He hadn't been able to dispose of the corpses last night due to sudden appearances of soldiers. Cyan sighed, realizing his plans for a quiet life before entering the academy would be disrupted. He went to meet the Duke. He thought his father would notice he was the one who killed the monsters. The Duke acknowledged him. Cyan worried he'd be asked about yesterday's incident. The Duke told him to sit down. Cyan looked serious and nervous, expecting a tough conversation. He thought hard about what excuse to make. The Duke said he'd be direct and asked what Cyan did last night. Cyan said he went to bed early because he was tired. The Duke found it suspicious, since the sword traces resembled Cyan's technique. But then he figured he might be overthinking. Cyan asked why the Duke asked him that. The Duke was lost in thought. He reasoned that Cyan, being so young, couldn't have killed a deathworm. Seeing his father distracted, Cyan called his attention. His father assumed he already knew about the incident. His father decided to investigate further, suspecting the involvement of a secret organization called Mist. Cyan acted surprised, pretending it was his first time hearing about Mist. The Duke explained that Mist, an ancient organization, assassinated many nobles under the guise of purification, leaving behind a black fog. They vanished 100 years ago, but the deathworm's corpse was shrouded in black fog, a trace of Aru, the god of darkness worshipped by Mist. The Duke assumed Mist killed the deathworm and other demonic beasts. Cyan admired his father for pinpointing the culprit, despite Mist disappearing centuries ago. The Duke admitted they had no clue about Mist's sudden return and warned Cyan to be careful. He planned to inform the Empire and investigate further. Cyan assumed his father believed him. The Duke thought it didn't make sense for Cyan to be involved with such an organization at his age and dropped the topic. He then asked Cyan if he knew who was visiting. Cyan said he heard the Emperor was visiting, but didn't know it was today. The Duke asked Cyan for a favor, making Cyan slightly nervous. Moments later, the horn blew, announcing the Emperor's arrival. Everyone kneeled in respect. The Emperor greeted the Duke by his first name, with excitement. His Majesty got off his horse, knelt down, and tapped the Duke on the shoulder, telling him not to be too formal since they're old friends. When the Emperor saw Cyan, he didn't seem interested. Cyan greeted His Majesty and introduced himself. His Majesty commented that for someone as young as Cyan to live in such an environment showed that the Duke's children were different from ordinary ones. Cyan's face lit up when he thought about the favor the Duke had asked. At first he was scared, but then he realized it was just because he was the Duke's son. In his previous life, Cyan was always stuck in the mansion when the Emperor visited. Now, he felt deeply touched by his father's trust. His Majesty said he wanted to introduce someone too. A young lady stepped out of the carriage, introducing herself as the fifth princess of the Usief Empire, Arin Sevelrus. Cyan remembered she was the tragic fifth princess from a while ago. The Duke entrusted Cyan to escort Princess Arin for the day. When the Duke told him, Cyan had no idea, but the Duke assured him not to worry, since all he had to do was keep her company. The Duke described the princess as being the same age as Cyan, and they would be seeing more of each other when they entered the academy. Cyan recalled seeing her between classes in his past life. The Duke said there was no harm in getting acquainted with someone from the royal family, expressing his desire for them to get along well. Cyan didn't really want to do it, but he understood his father's intentions. He probably wished they would develop a friendship like the one he had with the Emperor. However, Cyan thought the Duke had picked the wrong person for it. Princess Arin couldn't be his friend. Though Cyan couldn't say anything since it was a future only he knew, he found it annoying but decided to be obedient for now. He paid attention as Princess Arin started talking. The princess asked why the river was red. Cyan confirmed she meant the Blood River and explained that it was a stream running through the Lamia Valley. There wasn't a complex reason why the water was red. Old or injured demonic beasts, unable to compete fairly for survival, instinctively jumped into the Blood River. Their corpses and bodily fluids melted into the river, turning it red from the mana's decomposition. The princess looked shocked when she realized it was a river of demonic beasts' bodily fluids and corpses. Cyan casually added that the demonic beasts drank and washed in it, and advised her not to go in. The princess looked disgusted as she asked what was at the end of the river. Cyan replied that it led to the demon realm. The princess was extremely shocked. She wanted to make sure if it's really the place where the demons live. Cyan decided to tease her with a funny, devilish grin. He told her that if she keeps following the river, she might even meet the Demon King. The princess was horrified. In his head, Cyan knew no sane person would do that, but he finds it amusing to make fun of her. All of a sudden, a bright light appeared that caught all of their attention. The princess asked what it was. Cyan explained that it was the 3D Sentry Post in the west. A yellow light signifies incoming demonic beasts. The princess was surprised to hear that there are demonic beasts in there. The Duke immediately gave an order to protect the Emperor and the Guardian Knight Division. Troops would go with him to the 3rd Sentry Post in the west. The Emperor told the Duke, "Don't be like that." The Duke was confused. He asked the Duke if he thinks he's there for a hike. He added that he's feeling bored, and to prove his point, the Emperor unsheathed his sword. The Duke sighed and accepted the Emperor's wishes. The Emperor ordered his knights that they would join the demonic beast raid. He commanded them to focus on killing the demonic beasts until the raid was over. The Duke ordered Cyan to join too, which Cyan immediately agreed to. The princess asked him if he could fight the demonic beasts. Cyan answered yes and shared that he's still supporting from the back. He told the princess to get back to the shelter. Unexpectedly, the princess demanded to take her with him. In his head, Cyan wondered what the hell that kid was saying. The princess insisted that they're the same age, so she can come too. That's all for today. I'll upload the third part when the video hits 30 likes. Till then, bye.